This is the Tornado Trackers podcast. The Tornado Trackers are storm chasers Jeremy Heyman, Jeff Mangum, and me, Gabe Cox.
Hey, I'm Jeremy.
I'm Gabe.
And I'm Jeff.
And welcome to the Tornado Trackers podcast. This is the best podcast on the internet about storm chasing, severe weather, and the best three friends in the entire world. I'll say that. Right now.
Hand hearts on the screen.
Hand hearts.
Yep.
How you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, doing real well.
It's springtime.
It
feeling
is.
good. The sun's out.
Got my first 2 tornadoes of the season on film.
Come on now.
Pretty stoked about that. Saw
That's awesome.
6 total.
Beautiful. There's some beautiful shots. Check those out on our YouTube page, youtube.com/tornado trackers.
Texas Panhandle.
Beautiful.
Panhandle magic. Love that place. And until the canyon shows up.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Which canyon is that? That's the Palo.
The Palo Duro Canyon.
Yeah.
Or Cap Rock Canyon also.
Isn't there something about how tornadoes can form really close to that canyon? I was reading something about that on the tweeter.
I've heard of something like that too. Yeah, like the geographic lift. What is it called? I don't want to say
Orographic lift.
Orographic.
I don't know if that's right.
Big word.
That's the first word that came to my mind.
That sounds great.
I may have made it up.
That's science right there.
That's science. I'm going to read this. Orographic lift occurs when an air mass is forced from a low elevation to a higher elevation as it moves over rising terrain.
Bam.
So there you go. You did
I remember years ago chasing in Floydada, Texas, and seeing one of, if not the most picturesque supercell I've ever seen.
Yes.
And on the way there was a storm chaser. His name is David Drummond. And I remember him posting about how that lift was a key ingredient to the storms firing off. So
wow.
I thought that was really interesting.
Weather is crazy. Well, we have some crazy stories to share with y'all today. We've been thinking about this quite a bit. I know you guys have been thinking about this for like the last 4 or 5 years. But today we want to talk about the April 29th, 2017 series of tornadoes that took place in Canton, Texas. So there was about, how many tornadoes that day, fellas? Was it like 5 or 6 tornadoes that y'all were close to?
I'm seeing here, National Weather Service confirms 7 tornadoes hit east of DFW on that Saturday. So,
okay.
And all very localized. I know 7 doesn't sound like a lot, but it was in a very small area.
And they were powerful tornadoes too. So, guys, this is a kind of a reoccurrent theme in Tornado Trackers history. It's Jeremy wasn't there. But this is just a tale of being a part of a team of storm chasers, and not just a team, but 3 friends, and kind of what the 3 of us were going through in each of our respective locations. And through the power of telecommunications, right, we can be fairly connected. Obviously, we'll hear Gabe kind of lost some of that connection in the tale, but we all kind of experience this event in our own way, in our own place. And it's really, fellas, I know for y'all, I don't want to speak for y'all, but I'm guessing, this was a kind of a seminal moment in y'all's chase careers and in y'all's lives too. So I'm very excited to dive in and kind of hear the narrative from y'all's perspectives. But kick us off kind of at the beginning. How did the day begin? What were y'all expecting, and where were y'all at?
Gabe and I are both nodding at each other about who should
Doctor
who should start this one. Well, I think the whole story, there's so many stories within this story, because it really is like a moment after moment after moment of just kind of these compelling stories that we were going through. The way it started was we were in Lawton, Oklahoma, and we kind of stayed the night there. And, as we typically do, we slept in the car. But as the early morning came, we started seeing that there was a shift in what the Storm Prediction Center and a lot of the models were showing. And long story short is we found ourselves driving over 300 miles that next morning. And I think it's one of the things that we talk about with storm chasing. You kind of have to release some of your expectations and release some of the expectations of being in a certain place. And you kind of have to adapt with the atmosphere. And the atmosphere was pushing everything to East Texas that day.
We fully expected a squall line that day. I think most people did. Actually, we knew some chasers who just called the day off and didn't even bother with that
Gabe,
setup.
What is a squall line, and why would storm chasers not maybe be interested in that?
Yeah, so squall line's basically just a solid line of storms that move through, and you get straight line winds and some hail with it occasionally, but it's not ideal for tornadoes. You can get quick, messy spin-ups on it that don't last very long. But for storm chasers, you want to see individual cells, thunderstorms, and those will typically be more conducive to tornadoes. And so we didn't expect those individual storms. We thought it was going to be just a really messy storm day, but we were out already and we said, let's time lapse. Like, let's get some footage of these storms coming towards us. We'll make the best of it. And one of the unique things about that day was that Jeff had to go back to Austin at the end of the day. And I was out. I had flown out from Florida. I was living in Florida at the time. And I flew out and I had a rental car. And I didn't have to go anywhere after that chase event. So we decided early that morning to take two cars. That way, when we were done chasing, Jeff could go his way and I would go my way. So that was a unique situation that we had never chased together, but in separate cars. If we were together, we were typically in the same car.
Yeah.
And that had a huge impact on the events of the day later on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, in ways that, of course, we couldn't predict, even down to the choice of, you selecting like a compact little car,
Yeah.
which makes sense,
Well, yeah. And to speak into that, let's get into the mental landscape of 2017 Gabe. So that year came after the Wynnewood, Oklahoma tornado, which we covered in a previous episode. Also saw the Ray, Colorado tornado in 2016. And that was really the year that I thought that, oh, you know what? I could probably make a career out of storm chasing. Like I might be able to pull this off somehow. And so in 2017, I'm entering with that frame of mind. And up until then, I had gone through a 3-year period where work was really difficult for me. And it kind of felt like everything I touched fell apart. And I'm sure most people have been there at some point in their life where it was just like failure after failure. And it was just like, what is happening? And so in 2016, I have this great success storm chasing, which is something I've always wanted to do anyway. And so I had a death grip on it in 2017. And I said, I'm going to make this work and I'm going to do everything I can to make it work. I'm going to hustle and I'm going to get the best footage I can get. And that was really a driving motivator for that entire chase trip. And I only had a month. I had a few weeks to pull it off. And so I was going in, spending as little as I could so I could come out with as much as I could. And part of that was getting an extremely cheap rental car, which was this little compact Ford Fiesta. I'm okay with throwing them under the bus.
They threw you under the bus.
Yeah. It's a fine car if you're storm chasing on pavement and making smart decisions.
You don't have to say that about the Ford. You don't have to stand up for the Ford Fiesta.
I thought I was going to be driving in rain and that would be the worst of it. Again, I was still pretty new at all of it. So I didn't really have worst case scenarios built into my mind. So here I am with high expectations and trying desperately to make something work and being completely motivated by that. Like in 2017, the joy of storm chasing took a backseat because I needed to make a career out of it first.
What would you say you're like during that month? What was your like emotional landscape? Was it desperation? Was it excitement? Was it like a combination of those things?
I think it was a little bit of everything. Yeah, there was desperation because in 2016 I had tasted my dream for the first time in my life. So my childhood dream is to be a storm chaser. 2016 got a taste of that and actually made some money off of it. And I thought, oh, cool. Like, all right, I'm going to do this now. So 2017, I was desperate to make it work because I didn't want to have another failure.
You know, and I think about how difficult that is for a storm chaser. And as Gabe's describing, kind of so much is dependent on what the atmosphere does. And so it's hard because you can be as disciplined as someone wants to be. You can drive to all the storms. If they don't happen, or if they don't happen when they need to for the storm chaser, or where they need to for the storm chaser, then all that hard work just feels like exerting energy, time, lack of sleep, money, and then there's not the payoff. There's not the dividend that comes with that. So I think this particular day was really similar because I was doing some post tornado analysis earlier today, and there's something that we talk about called CAPE, which is convective available potential energy. And what that means is how much juice is in the atmosphere. Basically, the higher the number, if you can get a storm to fire off, then there's a really good chance that a severe storm will occur. And the CAPE number and level was extraordinarily high that day in East Texas. And I remember we were driving in our two separate cars, and we were calling each other and, trying to stay on the same page as we're driving. And we knew the potential was there. But I think the way Gabe is describing the entire chase season, I think could be summed up in that day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just super briefly touch on, where I was at. And I was going through a life transition. I had graduated from graduate school and was leaving a job that I was at, an internship I was at. And so I was at a goodbye party actually in Austin. And yeah, in a similar, I don't know, but different mind state of like, make or break, let's do this thing.
Yeah.
And that really kind of defines a lot of our stories, I think, as people and as, storm chasers just trying to figure out life. It's hard. And
absolutely.
you can't divorce those two. Like, we're human beings and we live life. And so pretty interesting. But that will play into the tale a little bit later on, because I didn't completely not serve a purpose that day. Okay, so the scene is set more or less.
We started that morning at Lawton, Oklahoma, and we ended up driving through Dallas-Fort Worth, through the Metroplex, which is always a joy to drive through. and we made our way to East Texas, and we camped out in Sulphur Springs, which is a sizable town in Northeast Texas. And we just pulled off. No storms had fired off yet, but again, the opportunity was there. And so we parked. I remember we pulled off and we had some chairs. We put out some camping chairs. We started eating snacks. We literally were just hanging out, waiting for storms to possibly fire off while we're sitting in some camping chairs eating snacks.
Yeah, we had such low expectations for the day. I mean, I talk about my expectations for the trip in general were really high, but for that specific day, they were super low. But I think just before we got to Sulphur Springs is when we started to realize that things might be a little bit different than we had expected, because the sun came out fully. And then the Cape that Jeff was mentioning before just shot through the roof because of that. The sun was heating up and boiling the atmosphere, and we could see that. We started seeing these cumulus towers going up, and the atmosphere was just starting to look turbulent, and it was already going better than we had hoped for at that point. So now we're sitting in these lawn chairs eating beef jerky, getting fueled up for the day. And we noticed these storms going up to our south. And so threw everything in the back of the cars, got in and raced south. And there was this one storm. It was kind of a leader in the pack. And I remember looking at the radar, and there was a rotation signature that got pretty strong. And we must have gotten there seconds after it lifted, because you could still, once we got out of the rain and we got to where this rotation was on the storm, you could still see the rotation in the clouds, but there was no tornado on the ground when we got there. And it had to have just lifted, because pretty soon we got reports that there was storm damage not far from where we were.
And I'm driving in my car behind Gabe. And so I'm following Gabe, and we're both doing the best we can to drive. And then as safely as possible, when we come to stop signs, we pull over looking at radar. And this is when I was with a different cell phone provider that will go unnamed. And I had the worst cell reception. I was barely able to even communicate to Gabe. Like he's calling me. I'm getting some of the calls. I can even get my app to update on radar. So I'm lagging about 20 minutes behind what the updated radar is. So this was the beginning of me just following Gabe and me being somewhat blind to radar and where we were going. And I just had to trust where he was going, because we couldn't even have much of communication. So that kind of sets the stage for the rest of the day. But we get to this small town called Grand Saline, and that's where this tornado had just occurred, and we got there just seconds afterwards.
And so the day so far has gone from maybe something will happen, maybe it won't, to throwing everything into the cars, racing, to a new place, a new target area, and oh whoa, maybe even a tornado has occurred. We just missed it, but I mean, the atmosphere seems like it's telling us that everything just changed. Everything just flipped around. And so what are you guys going through in that moment?
Yeah. Well, at that point, I thought we missed the tornado of the day, because still, I was still oblivious to the fact that the environment around us was becoming more and more conducive for tornadoes. And so there was that first bite of disappointment was, oh man, we literally seconds behind this storm, and we just missed the tornado of the day. Like, that's it. It's a bust. And so we figured, well, let's at least we can go and we can scope out the damage. We can document the damage, make sure everyone's okay. And so we drove on these back roads until we found where the damage path was. And luckily, there was very minimal damage to the houses there. It was a smaller, weaker tornado, and we checked on a neighbor there. And I had, at that point, talking about holding on to things with a death grip, I had just gotten a brand new camera that shot in 4K, and that was the first season I had taken it out, and it
was a big
rated,
deal 4 years ago. That was a big deal to have a 4K camera.
It was a big deal. It was the best camera I'd ever had, and there was no way I was going to allow anything to happen to it. Even though it said it had weatherproofing body, I was like, I'm not taking chances. I'm not going to take this out of the car in the rain to document the damage. I'll use my phone instead. And since then, I've taken that camera out in 6 hurricanes now. It's gone fully submerged in the Gulf of Mexico once.
I can attest to that.
I've tested the weatherproofing. It's great. I should have grabbed that camera.
Name drop that camera, because
that is the Lumix GH5. I am a forever fan. So first regret of the day was not grabbing that camera and grabbing my phone instead. So I'm out of the car in the rain, documenting this damage, trees down, some shingles off the houses, and interviewing the woman who was there, make sure she was okay. And again, the day was just getting going. Nobody expected what was about to happen. So no one was really on alert as far as I could tell. But Jeff and I were one of the first ones there.
And this was the first time, and really, I think the only time, that I've ever stepped foot on a freshly tornadoed lawn. I videoed this to where you can actually see all the deep swirl marks in this front yard of where the tornado had gone through, which was just fascinating to see because it was a weak tornado. Being able to see where the tornado left its mark, not just by seeing where trees had fallen over or been thrown to the side, but actually seeing in the ground evidence of where a tornado was just minutes previously. There was something really unique about that. Okay,
so y'all have witnessed, the fresh ground of an EF0 tornado. And so the chase is on for all intents and purposes. Cell service is spotty. That's frustrating. Unfortunately, we have to rely on cell service. That is always just a thorn in our side, I feel like. And y'all are in two separate vehicles. And so the odds are stacked in an interesting way in this chase. I mean, it's not ideal whatsoever.
So we're checking out those who have just kind of endured this tornado, making sure they're okay. Gabe's having a conversation with a woman whose house was still in good condition, but trees had been thrown everywhere. We found there was another house across the street where trees were everywhere, but by and large, everyone was okay. And it is pouring down rain. I mean, so hard. And so instead of getting our cameras out, we're kind of using our phones to take some video or document the damage. And as the rain pours down, it also pours very specifically onto Gabe's phone.
It's like that little cloud on Winnie the Pooh. It just hovered over my phone. Yeah. So I'm documenting, like Jeff said, we had gone across the street to another neighbor, and I'd looked down at my phone and another tornado warning had been issued.
Yeah, we're going to be careful though. There's no tornado warning coming. We got to keep a close eye on the radar.
That was the moment that I realized this day was going to be very different than we had planned. And I hadn't had a chance to see what had evolved since we started documenting the damage. And sure enough, new cells were firing to the south, and one went tornado warned. And we started to hear reports of a confirmed tornado on the ground. So I tell Jeff, hey, we got to get out of here. It's coming this way. Let's hit the road. And I told the neighbors, you guys need to take shelter. There are more tornadoes on the way. And just as I hop back in my car to start driving, my phone turns off. I thought the battery died, so I plug it in, nothing. Tried everything I could. And when I took the case off, the case was just completely filled with water. And I realized my phone had just gotten fried by the rain. That is my sole source of communication, my sole source of data and radar, my maps. I had nothing at that point. And so all of this pressure on this chase trip came to a head in that moment because I knew, A, I couldn't get the footage up that I needed to. And B, I lost all my means of communication and ways to chase safely. And that the day was done for me. Like I couldn't do anything on my own. And I just immediately became enraged. And also I was thinking that I had to buy a new phone. So there's that added expense. And I just got so upset because the driving factor of that entire trip was me trying to make a career out of storm chasing. And in that second that my phone turned off, I lost that day.
And you use the word enraged, and that's a strong, powerful emotional experience. You explained about it a little bit, but like what was your rage directed at in that moment?
I think circumstances. Mainly, it was not to anyone. It felt like another thing that I was touching that was falling apart, which was coming from years of things falling apart for me. It felt like, great, here we go again. And I know if you just take it as a one-off, like, oh, dude, you just lost your phone, like that happens. But it was just a series of events leading up to it. Yeah. And so it was years of frustration just coming to a peak.
Wow. That's That's powerful. I'm sitting here. I'm really feeling, that experience and that context. And that's, not an ideal emotional state to be in while on a tornado chase, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a roller coaster for sure. And you're going to experience a lot of different emotions, but that's a hard place to be, man.
Hard place to be and a dangerous place to be when you need to have your head in the right spot, especially on a day that's evolving very fast and very differently than we had expected.
And just think about the roller coaster we're talking about. And we talk about this often with storm chasing. 30 minutes earlier, we are in lawn chairs with tremendous anticipation. Like we are hopeful and we're excited and we're like, it's all happening. And then 30 minutes later, we are now in 2 cars. Gabe is in the lead. His phone is gone. We're in a very wooded area. I mean, just so many trees, tall pine trees. You barely have a visual. So you're relying on radar to even get you places. My phone is barely working because of my network not working very well. So we are in a hot mess. I mean, we're in 2 cars. We can't communicate. We can't see anything. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what's coming. Besides that, things are going really well.
Yeah, so I flagged Jeff down as soon as I realized my phone went out. And we stop on the side of the road. And he's the one that tells me now, not only is it a confirmed tornado heading towards us, it's a confirmed mile-wide tornado heading towards us. And it was close. I got a peek of his radar and saw it coming right towards us. And that was the last radar image I saw that day. So he shows me the radar image and I said, hey, it is not safe for me to be in this car alone without any information or way to navigate. I'll hop in the car with you. Day saved, smart decision. Should have probably done it in the first place.
Get here. It's going to pass right through here. Get right here. The big boy. It's coming this way.
Here now?
Huh?
I'm gonna park and hop in.
Let's do it.
I cannot begin to tell you how pissed off I am about.
Sorry, dude.
So I hop in his car immediately and we drive off, and we're driving as far as we can until we think we're out of the damage path. When it crosses my mind that, oh, wait, we just left my rental car in the damage path of this tornado. I don't want to have to pay for that. I can't pay for that because I got the really cheap insurance on that thing. And so, again, a wave of rage hits and like, oh, shoot, like, come on, we got to go back. I'm so sorry. We're going to have to do this really fast. I got to go get my car.
That thing's not stopping anytime soon. That thing was...
What? Car. It's gonna hit my car. Turn around as fast as you can. Seriously, as fast as you can.
Just was not in the right headspace at that time. Should not have left the car there, but we did it and had to go back and get it. So Jeff drops me off. As I'm getting out of the car, Jeff looks over and he sees through the rain curtains the mile-wide wedge approaching our location. So I'm scrambling to get out of the car. Jeff sees this wedge for the first time. I run to the car and I said, let's just go this direction. I point down the road. I should not have been making the calls because I didn't have any information. But I thought, let's just drive as fast as we can in this direction. We'll get out of the damage path because last I knew it was coming right to where we were. I hop in my car, so angry about how the day is going. And now, granted, I owned a minivan back in Florida, and I will say the turning radius on that minivan was 100 times better than the turning radius on a Ford Fiesta. Throwing you under the bus again, Ford Fiesta. I was so mad, I did not even attempt to make a 3-point turn. I just cut the wheel and stepped on it to get out of there. And the passenger side tires caught the mud on the side of the road. It had been pouring out. So it was just pure mud on the side of the roads. And as soon as that happened, the whole car got pulled into deep mud into this ditch that was flooding because of the rain. And as that happens, a poetic bolt of cloud to ground lightning strikes right in front of me. I scream, the water splashes over the hood of the car. And in my GoPro footage, there's Jeff a half mile down the road, and he's full eyes on the wedge like he should be, getting the heck out of Dodge.
No! Jeff! Jeff!
It just sunk down to the point where it was starting to it was seeping into the back seat. The ditch was flooded so much.
Jeez.
So at that point, I'm stuck. And the last image I had seen on Jeff's phone was confirmed mile-wide wedge coming straight from my location. So I didn't know how long I had. I thought I had a couple minutes. Jeff had already had a visual on it, so it was close enough to see. Now it was completely rain-wrapped. I couldn't see it at all. It was just behind a curtain of rain. So I'm at a point where I'm not even sure what direction I'm looking. And I think that was the first time that I empathized with typical human beings who don't care about the weather, who get caught in these situations. It's the first time I realized, like, this is really disorienting. I don't know which way I'm looking. I don't know where the tornado is. I'm pretty sure it's coming towards me because that's what the radar said, and it's a mile wide. So even if I get out on foot and try to run a half mile in either direction, I'm just throwing a dart in the dark, and I could be running straight into it. And there were no houses around. There was one trailer home that was nearby. And so I thought, you know what? I'm in the safest place I can be. And I'm going to get as low as I can in my car, putting my camera on the dashboard to catch whatever happens. But before I took cover, I had the frame of mind to make a goodbye video and put the camera on the dashboard and just smeared my face in the passenger seat and prayed hard. And just before I put my head down, I could start to see branches and leaves start coming in through the air, which is the first sign that a tornado is nearby. It's the light vegetation starts coming in, and I just laid down and prayed.
Well, I am stuck in the mud. There is a confirmed tornado heading straight towards me. My phone has died. I have nowhere to go. So, this is the end. I love my family. Meredith, you are amazing. Tegan and Kylie, you're incredible girls. I know you'll grow up to be amazing women. There's debris coming in. Yep, there's debris falling. Oh my God. I see the edge of the circulation. Here it comes.
It got really windy, and about 30 to 40 seconds later, which seemed like an eternity, I sat up and realized I think it somehow missed me. And it turns out that this tornado it was moving northeast, and towards the end of its life, it turned more to the north. And that northern turn moved it just far enough down the road where it missed my car.
Oh my God. It's past. Oh my God. Holy. There's no doubt a tornado just went down the road from here while I am stuck in my car in a ditch. I've literally just barely made out of this one.
And so at that point, I realized, oh gosh, I'm alive. I'm not going to die. This is amazing. I need to get this car out of the ditch before it rains anymore and floods it, because I still don't want to pay for this rental car. And the rain lets up. I get out of the car to assess the situation, and I'm in this flooded ditch deep. But as I'm standing out of the car, I look in the opposite direction that the tornado had just gone, and I notice these clouds swirling over the tree line in the opposite direction. And I said, that looks an awful lot like a wall cloud on the other side of me. And it was moving, the clouds were moving so fast, I knew for sure, holy cow, there's another tornado forming on the other side of my car.
Well, this is how I survived almost being in a tornado. And there may be another one just down the road. Oh, shoot.
And sure enough, this is the one that I think most storm chasers got, was the second Canton tornado touched down on the other side of my car and moved into town. So I'm stuck in this ditch in between a mile-wide wedge that just went through and then a second wedge that formed and moved into Canton. And at that point, I just lost all sense of reality. I had no idea what was happening. The day was just so chaotic already. And all these massive tornadoes were touching down. It felt like a really bad dream, honestly. Like, that's the only way to describe it. Like, anything that could go wrong was going wrong. And stuff that should not be happening, like 2 wedges moving on either side of my car, were happening. And so I just kind of was just floating through reality at that point. Like, okay, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how I'm getting out of here, but weird stuff is happening.
Yeah, just incredible, Gabe. I mean, what a wild experience. I mean, you if you want, you can watch Gabe's experience. We'll post the video in the show notes, which he's very graciously, I mean, decided to share, with the internet. And I think it's a harrowing experience to hear it. I mean, I recently just watched it, and just hearing my friend in that state is it's hard to describe. It's really hard to describe, man.
Yeah. So I sat in the ditch. I got back in the car when I noticed that second tornado moving through. The rain picked up again and hail came in, and sat in my car. And I knew at that point I was okay because this tornado was going on the other side of me. So I was just sitting there waiting for someone. And about 30 minutes later, a car came pulling up, racing down the road, and I flagged them down, and they were driving to where I had seen Jeff go last. And the woman stops and she says, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. I just need help getting out of the ditch." And she said, "I can't help you. I'm sorry. My grandmother's house just got hit by a tornado." And I said, "Don't worry about me then. Keep going." Mm-hmm. She said, "You sure? You're sure?" I said, "Yes, please keep going." And she drives off in the direction that Jeff had gone. And then about 5 minutes later, a neighbor from whose house I could see just down the road, I didn't realize anyone was home. He came out. He checked on me. He happened to have a tow line and got me pulled out of the ditch. I will forever be grateful to that guy. I pulled the car out, no problem. I thanked him. He went on his way in the direction that the second tornado had gone. And I got in my car and I said, "All right, Jeff's just down the road. I'm going to go meet up with him and this day will be over." I drive down the road, and I had parked basically right at a bend in the road, so I couldn't see more than a quarter mile down the road. I go around this bend in the road, and as soon as I go around the bend, there is a mile-wide path of EF4 destruction right in front of me. You could see off into the distance, just the trees were sheared. There was no vegetation, and the houses were completely leveled. And I could see off in the distance on this hilltop, probably 2 or 3 miles away, all of the first responders were stuck 2 to 3 miles down the road because of all the debris. So I'm pulling up to the damage path 40 minutes after this tornado goes through, driving in the direction that I thought Jeff was going to be. And here's this mile-wide damage path. First responders haven't gotten there yet. And in that moment, I was convinced that Jeff had gotten hit by this tornado. And so the terror of me dying in a tornado was quickly replaced with the fact that, oh my gosh, I think my friend was just killed by this tornado. And I immediately got out of the car and ran into the damage path. And it's a mile wide. And so I'm running this mile wide path, jumping over down power lines and seeing some neighbors on the side of the street who were just sitting in front of their completely demolished home. Like it was just completely crumbled to the ground. There were 3 women there who had blood running down their heads, ran up to them and asked if they're okay. They were in complete shock. I don't know that they were fully aware of what was happening. They seemed to be okay. I just told them, "Please do not move," and kept running. And this whole time I'm looking everywhere, looking for for Jeff's car around a telephone pole, upside down in a ditch, in the field, eighth or quarter mile away, just looking for signs of his crushed vehicle so that I could go find him. And running this path, and all of a sudden someone yells out from a house that had been damaged heavily, but most of it was still standing. There was a man in his wheelchair who was trying to get out of his house, but there was debris getting caught up in his wheels. So me and another neighbor helped him out into the road where he could get around. There was another neighbor whose house had been spared, and he had his four-wheeler. And so I sent him to the 3 women that had gotten injured. And all the while trying to figure out, how in the world am I going to find Jeff in all of this? Mm. So the man with the four-wheeler, I got his cell phone, and the only number I knew by heart was my wife's number and my parents' number. And so those were the numbers that I called. My wife didn't answer her phone because she doesn't do that. And my parents answered, and I'm trying to figure out how in the world I can get in touch with Jeff or someone that knows Jeff without freaking someone out. And so it's the classic call to your parents where you answer with, everything's okay, I'm fine. And
it's the worst thing you could possibly say.
As a parent, that's not at all what you want to hear. And so I'm trying to figure out a way for them to track down Jeff's wife's number and get her to somehow call him without saying like, hey, Jeff might be dead. It was failed attempt after failed attempt to try to get some sort of communication with Jeff. And the whole time just being convinced that his car was somewhere, had gotten thrown somewhere. And so I ran back the other mile back to my car. And I remember this one moment, and I'll never forget it. I was alone on this hilltop in the middle of this EF4 damage path, and I heard these screams coming from a collapsed building. And it sounded like a baby, honestly. And I was like just struck with terror, because I knew, I was like, I have to go see what that is. And I'm terrified of what I'm about to see. So I walk up to this damaged, collapsed building, and there's screams, and I start to go in, and I realize it's a barn, and I saw animals, which was an awful sight, but honestly, a relief that it wasn't a human being. And so, love animals. I was still looking for my chase partner. That was my number one priority. So I left the area, but I'll never forget, when I walked away, there was this baby goat, and it latched onto me in that damage path, and it followed me everywhere that I went. And it was just such a surreal, between that and the sounds and the smells, just this, I can't even describe the smell, natural gas leaking, and there's the smell of torn earth and buildings. And then this baby goat following me around everywhere. It was just this crazy, surreal, out-of-body experience. And hopped back in the car, and I felt so awful leaving those people behind, but I knew the first responders were going to be there. And my priority at that point was, I need to find Jeff and make sure he's alive. Like, that's my responsibility. So the only way I knew to get in touch with him was with my laptop, if I could find internet. Little did I know that the town had just been hit with multiple tornadoes. The power was out everywhere, and I drove everywhere to try to find internet, and there was nothing. As a last resort, I hopped on the highway, and I start driving east out of Canton. I'm 100% convinced at this point that I'm driving away from Jeff's body, which was the worst feeling I think that I've ever had. But I needed to call to make sure. So I'm driving east looking for power, and I finally get to a town that has power, and I pull out of the highway, and the tornado sirens go off there. And it was just like, it felt like the tornadoes were following me at that point, and I could not see anything on radar. It was so disoriented. I had no idea what was happening weather-wise. I just knew I had to keep driving east to get away from everything. So I get back in the car, and I got to the next town. And that was the town that I finally met some other storm chasers who happened to have a Wi-Fi hotspot, and they told me, yeah, man, connect. They had no idea what was going on. I feel bad to this day because I'm sure I was like just totally out of it meeting these guys for the first time. I know I've met them again several times, and they have told me. I cannot for the life of me remember who it was. Because I was just, the state of mind I was in, I don't remember anything except for sensation.
Yeah, you were in shock, dude.
Yeah. And I finally connect to the internet and tried to call Jeff's phone. Nothing would go through. And so I finally, at long last, decide I'm going to call Jeremy and fill him in on what's happening. And I call, and he answered, and I find out what actually happened to Jeff.
Thanks, Gabe. Well, we're going to leave it on a cliffhanger this week. This is going to be a two-parter. So join us in a couple weeks to hear the end of the story and also Jeff's experience throughout this, because he had his very own surreal, incredible experience as well. Thank you so much, Gabe, for that story. It's such a powerful, intense, insane thing that you went through.
I tell people this, I'm not proud of the decisions I made on this trip. There were a lot of mistakes I made, but also let this be a cautionary tale. Like, check your motives going into storm chasing, because they're going to drive decision making in either a healthy or an unhealthy direction. And on this trip, it was all unhealthy, and it almost killed me.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's big of you, man, to own that, to realize that about yourself. And in my opinion, it's what makes you a great chaser. And yeah, but these stories can obviously turn in the other direction very, very quickly, very, very quickly. So, man, just so thankful for you and that you're here. And man, it's such a chilling tale, wild tale. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. This has been the Tornado Trackers podcast. Follow us everywhere on social media. We're at Tornado Trackers. Check out our videos on YouTube, youtube.com/Tornado Trackers. All the videos we've talked about are in the show notes. So that might be an easy way for you to find those. But that's it from us, the Tornado Trackers. I've been Jeremy Heyman, joined by Gabe Cox and Jeff Mangum. And we will see you in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.